Alright folks, picture this, it's the end of the Ice Age. Mammoths are stomping across frozen plains, giant sloths are taking their sweet time munching on leaves. And two of the most fearsome beasts to ever walk North America are sharing the same neighborhood. No, this isn't a new Netflix special, it's real prehistory, and today we're talking about a matchup for the ages, the giant short-faced bear versus the saber-toothed tiger, and in the other corner, the legendary Smilodon, aka the saber-toothed cat, not really a tiger, but don't let that fool you. With 11-inch fangs and biceps that would make a bodybuilder jealous, this guy wasn't just all teeth and no action. He was built for ambush, for power, and for sinking those iconic saber teeth into some serious megafauna. Now, I've gotta say, as a wildlife nerd, I've spent years dreaming up prehistoric face-offs like this. It's like dino fan fiction for grown-ups, but this battle, it's special. Because we're not just talking about size or muscle, we're talking strategy, survival, and style. So what happens when raw power meets precision? When brute strength meets the ultimate ambush predator? Grab your snacks and your sense of wonder, we're diving into one of the wildest what-ifs in natural history. Let's break down who wins, who walks away, and who ends up as an Ice Age statistic. Let me take you back in time, not just a few hundred years, but over 10,000 years ago, when North America wasn't run by people or politics, but by pure muscle and prehistoric power. Meet our first contender, the giant short-faced bear, also known by its scientific name, Arctodus Simus. This wasn't your average cuddly bear from a national park. Oh no. This beast was the heavyweight champion of the Ice Age. When it stood on two legs, it reached over 11 feet tall. That's taller than a basketball hoop, and it weighed nearly 2,000 pounds. Imagine two refrigerators stacked on top of each other, covered in fur, with jaws strong enough to crack bones like popcorn. That's the short-faced bear, massive, fast, and not something you'd want to run into on your way home from hunting a mammoth. And then there's our second star, the iconic saber-toothed cat, or Smilodon. Now, a quick note here, it's often called the saber-toothed tiger, but it actually wasn't a tiger at all. Still, let's not split hairs, because this cat meant business. With canine teeth nearly a foot long, it looked like something out of a fantasy movie, but this wasn't fiction. This predator had four limbs built like a linebacker and a bite designed to take down some of the biggest prey to ever walk the planet. Both of these Ice Age icons lived in the same neighborhood, probably crossed paths, and maybe even competed for the same dinner. Just imagine a short-faced bear lumbering onto the scene to steal a fresh kill, only to find a saber-toothed cat standing over it like, "Back off, big guy, I hunted this bison fair and square." As someone who's been fascinated by prehistoric predators since I could barely pronounce Pleistocene, I can tell you this matchup is one for the ages. It's size versus skill, power versus precision. And before we decide who wins the ultimate Ice Age showdown, we've got to look a little deeper into what made these animals so incredible. Ready? Let's break it down. Now let's talk about what really gets prehistoric nerds like me excited: size, strength, and fighting style. If this were a UFC matchup, the giant short-faced bear would be the undisputed tank in the ring. This guy wasn't just big, he was built like a freight train. Long legs for high-speed chases across the tundra, a massive body that could intimidate almost anything in sight, and jaws so strong they could crush bones like a kid crunching cereal. Fossils show their teeth were designed not just for chewing meat, but for cracking into marrow. That's some next-level carnivore commitment. And despite their size, these bears could move fast and cover serious ground. Imagine a grizzly on stilts with a sports car engine. That's the level of terrifying we're dealing with. On the flip side, the Smilodon was the Ice Age assassin. Sleek, muscular, and made for close combat. You know those action movies where the hero takes down a giant enemy with one perfect strike? That was Smilodon's whole strategy. With muscle-packed forearms and claws like meat hooks, it could wrestle prey to the ground and deliver a deadly bite with those signature saber teeth. And we're not talking about little daggers, we're talking canines up to 11 inches long, fine-tuned to slice through flesh and hit vital spots like the neck or spine. Where the bear was brute force and endurance, Smilodon was precision and power. It didn't chase for miles, it waited, it pounced, and it made it count. Kind of like comparing a heavyweight boxer who wears his opponent down with punches to a martial artist who lands one perfect knockout kick. If I had to pick which one I'd rather have guarding my backyard, I'd probably go with the bear for pure intimidation. But if we're talking surgical takedowns and style points, Smilodon wins that round. So, who takes the edge here? It depends on the battlefield. In a long-distance chase, the bear has it. But in a close quarter fight where one move decides the match, the saber-toothed cat is a deadly contender. Ready to see where these two titans lived and hunted? Let's dive into their turf next. Now let's talk about where these prehistoric powerhouses called home, because even apex predators need a comfy stomping ground. The giant short-faced bear was a North American local through and through. Think of him as the Ice Age's king of the North. He roamed the forests, cruised across grassy plains, and probably strutted around like he owned the place. From what we know, he covered a lot of territory, especially out west. Imagine a massive bear strolling through what's now California or Montana like it's just another Tuesday. With those long legs, he was built to cover ground fast, so his territory was probably huge. Now over to the Smilodon, who was way more of a traveler. This saber-toothed superstar wasn't just chilling in one region, he was coast to coast and beyond. Fossils show he roamed all over the Americas, from north to south, across jungles, grasslands, rocky highlands, and everything in between. If this were a road trip movie, Smilodon would be the one with the top down, sunglasses on, cruising through every kind of terrain the Ice Age could throw at him. What I love about this matchup is how differently they adapted. The bear relied on wide-open spaces and endurance, while Smilodon was flexible, slipping into whatever environment had big prey and good cover. Kind of like comparing a linebacker who dominates the field to a Navy SEAL who thrives in any condition. Bottom line, these two weren't just tough, they were survivors, thriving in some of the harshest and wildest environments the ancient world had to offer. Alright, let's dig into what these ancient heavyweights were chowing down on. Trust me, neither of them was ordering the veggie platter. First up, the giant short-faced bear. This guy was an absolute meat machine. With jaws like a hydraulic press and a nose that could sniff out a carcass from miles away, he wasn't picky about how he got his meal. Sure, he could hunt, but honestly, why waste the energy when you can just show up and steal someone else's dinner? Picture a wolf pack taking down a deer, and then this bear comes stomping in like the schoolyard bully and says, "Thanks for the effort, boys. I'll take it from here." And with his massive size, who was going to argue? Now let's talk about Smilodon, the saber-toothed cat with a taste for the dramatic. Hunting was his thing, and he went big literally. This cat didn't waste time chasing rabbits. Oh no, he was out there tackling the prehistoric version of tanks, mammoths, giant ground sloths, bison the size of SUVs. With muscular forearms, dagger-like canines, and claws that could shred through thick hide, Smilodon was like a feline assassin. But hey, even he wasn't above a little theft now and then. If someone else made a kill and he had a shot to take it, he'd roll the dice. Personally, I think it's fascinating how these two had totally different strategies for getting fed. The bear used intimidation and endurance, while the cat used power and precision. One was a heavyweight brawler, the other a stealthy ambusher. But both knew how to keep their bellies full in a world where dinner could fight back. Coming up next, we'll look at how they crossed paths with the most dangerous animal of all time, humans. Alright folks, here comes the ultimate showdown question that gets every prehistoric nerd fired up. Who would win if the giant short-faced bear squared off against the saber-toothed cat in a fight? Picture it like the heavyweight title bout of the Ice Age, a clash of raw power versus lethal precision. If these two went toe-to-toe in a straight-up face-off, the bear's sheer size and muscle mass would give it a serious edge. We're talking about a creature as tall as a basketball hoop, built like a freight train, and with jaws strong enough to crush bone like it's crunchy cereal. In a classic one-on-one slugfest, that kind of brute force can be a game-changer. But flip the script to a stealthy ambush scenario, and the story changes fast. The Smilodon was basically the Ice Age ninja, silent, deadly, and packing saber teeth sharp enough to slice through the thickest hides. Imagine a modern tiger taking down a bear with a perfectly timed strike to the neck or spine. That's exactly how Smilodon could bring down the giant bear if it caught it off guard. So what's the verdict? Honestly, it's a toss-up, no clear winner here. In a full-on brawl, the bear might dominate. But if it's all about stealth and surprise, the saber-toothed cat has the tools and the tactics to come out on top. Personally, I love this matchup because it's the classic brains versus brawn battle from the Ice Age. Who do you think would win? Alright, Let's talk about the one question no one's brave enough to ask but we're all secretly thinking. Could you keep a giant short-faced bear or a saber-toothed tiger as a pet? Let me stop you right there. Unless your idea of a cozy cuddle is with a 9-foot-tall, 1-ton murder machine that eats bones for breakfast, I'd say hard pass on the bear. This wasn't your average honey-loving Winnie the Pooh. This guy could sniff out a meal from miles away and had the jaw strength to crush a bowling ball, and maybe your car. And the Smilodon, as cool as it sounds to have a cat with steak knives sticking out of its face lounging on your couch, this isn't a big fluffy house cat. It's more like a living weapon designed to take down mammoths. With one wrong belly rub, you'd go from pet owner to prey, not exactly ideal for a game of fetch. In short, could you keep one? Technically no, they're extinct. But should you even want to if they weren't? Not unless you've got a reinforced steel house, an endless meat supply, and zero regard for your own safety. So let's just admire these prehistoric powerhouses from a safe distance, like through fossils, documentaries, and your favorite paleo YouTube channel. That way, your limbs stay attached and your dog stays the most dangerous thing in your living room. Hey there, if you're loving this deep dive into prehistoric giants and fierce predators, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and ring the bell so you never miss an epic showdown from the past. And now I want to hear from you. What crazy ancient creatures or wild wildlife topics do you want me to explore next? Drop your ideas in the comments below and let's keep this adventure going together.